Hello, my name's Steven, and in this video we're going to cover setting up a development environment for following along in my videos so that you can reproduce the same things I'm doing for Apache NiFi setups and data flows and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and jump on over to getting things going. So if you're using Windows, you'll need to install WSL. Mac and Linux, you can ignore this part and wait till we get to the next part. So Windows, go ahead and get WSL installed. Follow the Windows instructions, and I'll go ahead and leave a link in there in the description down below. Just follow these instructions for installing it the first time or your second time, or installing the distro as well. And then make sure that you get the distro installed. I'll be using Ubuntu 22.04 or 05. So those are the ones I'll be running with. And then once you're done with that, then if you're on Windows, Linux, or Mac, you'll need to make sure you have Docker Desktop installed as well. This will just make it simpler for you to get Docker up and running without having to do much work. So get that installed, make sure it's up and running on your system. And then from there, you also need, if you want to follow along with my videos exactly, then I'll be using VS Code. Now you can do this without VS Code if you wanted to, just use your own editor of choice and stuff, or just do it all from the command line as well. That works just as well. But go ahead and install this if you want to follow around and take advantage of some of the nice features and extensions that come along with it as well. All right, so from there, to get started on setting up the environment, just go to my GitHub. And from here, you want to go to the Apache NiFi repository. Once we're in there, we'll go ahead and click on code, HTTPS, copy the link, and let's jump on over to, I'm going to go to VS Code. And once you're at your command line, or in this case, a terminal, so let me jump us over there. And here we are. So I've created a folder called Sandbox. This is where I'll be putting all my, this is where I'll be cloning the repository into. So you'll want to make sure you shouldn't have to worry about installing Git, but because it should be installed with your repo. But if you don't have Git installed, go ahead and get that done as well. And then from here, we'll do git clone. We'll go ahead and put in that link that we copied. And there we go. Now it's cloned, so I can go ahead and see that I see the Apache NiFi repo in there. I'll switch over to that. You can see I'm inside of the repo. And there we go. So you can see everything that every time I create a new video, from now on, I'll be adding new folders inside of this repo. So that all you have to do is a git pull to make sure it's up to date, and then that will update it. You'll get the new one. And inside of each folder, I'll have self-contained, for each video, they'll have their own self-contained Docker compose file. So if we switch over to examples, a NiFi API one, we'll switch into that one, list it. And we can see I have a couple files in here, the README, the Docker compose, and maybe extra files or folders that are needed in order to follow along with the video. So it could involve providing drivers for whatever database we're connected to or something like that. Or you could go fetch those on your own. So you can go ahead and look at the Docker Compose, and we can see that it has a basic setup in here. So it'll be easier to look at it since we're in code. Let's just bring it up in there. And as you can see, the Docker Compose is already set up. You can go ahead and just run it right now, and it will work for you. Now, the instructions for the README will have a little bit of extra stuff in there as well. So if we say code, and we open the README, you'll have the instructions for following along, you'll see what I'm using, what requirements I'm recommending, what extensions I'm using for the video that you'll probably want to add if you want to follow along exactly. And then how to clone the repo, and then most cases, I'm using a custom Docker network that I'm creating beforehand. So like in this case, it's telling you, okay, well, first of all, I want to make sure Docker is up and running. So Docker PS, I can see Docker's there. And now I want to create a network. So create network. Oops, that's not it. Docker. So if you look, we have create a network. It is Docker network, I believe. So oh, actually, why am I even guessing? I got it in my instructions. Docker network, create NiFi. Ooh, that was wrong. NiFi. Okay, so now we have Docker network. And I think it's ls. Yeah, there we go. So you can see we have a Docker network, and I got the mistake one I put in there and the new one as well. So the NiFi one. So now we're ready to run. And just like I have up here listed in the README for each video or each folder I'll have, it tells you, well, here's some extensions I'm using. So I have Docker, the extensions down here. I'm using remote development because I'm using VS Code into WSL. I have the Docker plugin or extension as well. So we go down here, we can see my locals, and I'll have a couple others in here, but really the ones that apply to the video that will probably be helpful will be listed here. You can see my Docker ones in here. Get rid of that. And then in this case, for this video, or for this example, it's using Thunder Client as well. So if I go over, I see all of them are installed, and they're installed inside the WSL environment in this case for Windows. So I can go ahead and see, okay, Docker's over here. Here's it. It's running. I'm going to refresh it, see the network's there. No containers are up right now. I got a couple images, so I'm good there. And the Thunder Client's there as well. So this gets you to a point where you can just follow along with the video from this point, and you're up and going. And if we just say Docker compose up, that's all we need to do. So it's going to get started, and then I will be able to utilize this and follow along in my video. And there's some things you can do differently to it as well. You can change the password. You don't have to use the same thing. You make some your own port changes if you don't want to use the same ports. The volumes are just being created for you, so you can go ahead. This way it's persistent, but if you don't want it to be persisted, you can go ahead and just comment out the volumes, get rid of those. Just remember, it's not going to be there next time. Same thing with this section here, and this is where it's telling it to connect to the external network that I already created called NiFi. This will be really important when I have Docker Compose files that have multiple containers being created. I just want to keep it simple and have them all use the same network so they're easy. It's easier to connect to each other. Okay, that's all I want to show in this video. That way you get a spot where you can start at. Makes it easy. For now on, going forward on images, always be distinctive on the versions, explicit on the version number that I'm using, so you don't have to worry about running it and getting a different version, it's not working correctly or something like that. So that'll help as well. And that's also the reason why each one of the videos will have their own self-contained folder in Docker Compose. All right, that's all I wanted to cover in this one. Hopefully that helps out for the next video.